What's up, everybody? It's the Digital World Podcast, and I have this article. It's written by Edward Snowden. If you guys don't know who he is almost like the equivalent of, I guess you can say, like a George Peterson, sort of, maybe, kind of. He is a good, he's a thinker, and he comes up with a lot of good things. He's also talked about many things that aren't accepted by what you would say the mainstream media narratives. But, anyways, he writes this on Your Money and Your Life. And I'm going to take, you can go ahead and read this. I'll post it down in the description box. But here I wanted to go over this because he starts talking about CBDCs. And one thing I've mentioned before, it's not what you think it is, where you might ask me, well, don't we already have digital dollars? So why would we need a CBDC? Because when I go on my phone, I can see my account. And technically, the way the system would work is entirely different. And so, what I want to say here is make the differentiation and also, read a little bit of what he has to say because it'll give you a different perspective, but also kind of along the same lines of what I've been talking about. So here, this is he gives the analysis of three different types of CBDCs. One being an indirect CBDC, which is indirectly issued by the central bank, and the indirect CBDC represents a claim on an intermediary, and intermediaries handle retail payments, and the central bank does the wholesale payments. Okay, so here you see how the commercial bank would be the bridge. Now, a direct CBDC, which I believe is imminent and could and most likely will happen, because remember, there's no certainties, there's only probabilities, like George Gammon says. Here, the CBDC is a direct claim on the central bank, which keeps real-time records and updates balances. Private sector companies may still develop token-based variants or digital banknotes. And then we have the hybrid CBDC, which could use the intermediary payment service provider, but also have a direct claim. Now here, the direct claim on the central bank is combined with the private sector messaging layer. Payments are handled by intermediaries. The central bank has capacity to restore retail payments if intermediaries are under technical stress. Okay, so this is I believe that a direct CBDC is something that's going to happen. Now other folks might say, nah, never going to happen. There's others who would say, oh, it's possible. But here he says, neither is a central bank's digital currency a state-level embrace of crypto, at least not of crypto as pretty much everyone in the world who uses it currently understands it. Instead, CBDC is something closer to being a perversion of crypto, or at least the founding principles and protocols of crypto. A crypto-fascist currency, an evil twin entered into the ledgers on opposite day, expressly designed to deny its users the basic ownership of their money and to install the state at the mediating center of every transaction. And then he goes over how, this is something I've talked about too about Rome, where they basically diluted their coins, where you see here it's 40% finance in the 240s, then you see in the 250s you have 30% finance, up to the 270s where it was less than 5% fineness. So you see it just starts decreasing in its purity over time because they're diluting their currency. And so it's the same thing. What do you think's been happening since the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 got instituted? The dollar has just been on the decline. And Weimar Germany, we see what happened there, where you can just basically use these as napkins at that point, because they're just worthless. And in order to buy a loaf of bread, you have to barrel in a barrel of cash. And here, I wanted to read to you this right here. It says what some economists have lately taken to calling, with a suspiciously pejorative emphasis, decentralized cryptos, meaning Bitcoin, ETH, and others, are regarded by both central and commercial banks as dangerous disintermediators, precisely because they've been designed to ensure equal protection for all users, with no special privileges extended to the state. This crypto, quote unquote, whose very technology was primarily created in order to correct the centralization, what now threatens it, generally is, and should be constitutionally unconcerned with who possesses it and uses it for what. To traditional banks, however, not to mention to states with sovereign currencies, this is unacceptable. These upstart crypto competitors represent an epochal disruption, promising the possibility of storing and moving verifiable value independent of state approval, and so placing their users beyond the reach of Rome. Opposition to such free trade is all too often concealed beneath a veneer of paternalistic concern, with the state claiming that in the absence of its own loving intermediation, the market will inevitably devolve into unlawful gambling dens and fleshpot rife with tax fraud, drug deals, and gun running. So he's making the claim that without the help of these central banks and the state, we're all going to go and destroy ourselves and whatnot, and that they need to step in and be there for us to help us. And that's why they want to introduce these CBDCs. Now, let me remind you that the XRP ledger has side chains that central banks have been piloting. And I always say that the gatekeepers of the economy are not going to disappear. And I think they're going to leverage the technology of crypto and use it and implement it into their CBDCs. And eventually we'll see this direct CBDC that will happen. I hope this episode brought you some value. Let me know what you guys think, because this is an interesting topic, and it's good to hear people's thoughts on this. Let me know in the comment section below. This is the Digital Podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode.